the time. Whether you are using that muscle or not, you're going to have a charge in that muscle all the time. The reason for that, and that means that if we've got the charge, that tells me there's a difference across that plasma membrane, okay? If you've got the charge, the muscle is ready to react at any time. Whether that's going to be a voluntary action or an involuntary, such as a reflex. So muscle tone is making sure that we have that little bit of charge across that membrane all the time.
What did you say with the reflex?
Well, when we get into the nervous system, okay, we refer to the skeletal muscle system as being voluntary. In other words, we are making the movements. We're choosing to make the movements. But we have our reflexes, and reflexes, they're going to be a result of the nervous system on the muscles, but we didn't make it happen. You know, like the bug flying at your eye, and you go. I love that, don't y'all? Okay, or the one trying to get in your ear. All right, gotta love it, okay? So here is a summary of the physiology of muscle. We can have, yes?
So why do we think of muscle tone as like your muscle then, I guess?
That you build up as
Yeah.
a bodybuilder?
Yeah.
Because the people who are going to make sure that they go into the gym or that they do their training, whatever it is that they're choosing to do, okay, the ones who are going to stick to that, their muscles are trained. Their muscles are much more effective than those who don't. Now, here's the kicker. Skeletal muscle is not the only muscle that can be trained. Okay? So it's not that their usage of the muscle, the storage in the muscle, the use of the ions, the use of the sugars, that all of that's better. Okay, it is, all right? Because if that old saying, y'all know that old saying, right? If you don't use it, you lose it. Very true, okay? What builds up around the muscle? The fat stores, okay? And those will increase. Those are not effective. A person who's well-toned, like we think of in the gym, versus someone who's not, okay? Who has easier movement?
The person that's well toned.
Yes. Their muscles are trained. Does that make sense? They'll have better calcium stores, they'll have better glucose stores, everything. And the fat buildup is minor. Don't y'all just love when you like maybe start a program and they want to talk to you about the BMI? Body mass index. I hate that number. I do not like that calculation. But it's true. It's a very true thing. So, the physiology, we can do that motor unit recruitment, get one and one and one and one and get those to summate. We can have the frequency where we get more, and that'll summate. Trepi, the warming up, taking the muscle from being cold to warming up. The tetanus, if you think about taking it into complete contraction, contractions will be listed as being isometric or isotonic. Now, one of the things that will happen, especially to skeletal muscles will fatigue. They will get tired. Now, the skeletal muscle, when it begins to go into muscle fatigue, basically the performance, the ability of that muscle decreases. But that doesn't mean that that muscle fatigue came from the use of that muscle physically out there moving and doing something. There are other ways that the skeletal muscle can fatigue than just simply usage. For example, psychological. What does that do to your physical muscle? Do you not get tight, tired, weak? Okay? All right, yeah, buddy, let's go. Oh, yeah, man. Wow, I am so ready to go. Y'all come on. Woohoo! All right. My emotional state can give a fatigue to the muscle. The muscular. I'm going to try to go run my 1 mile marathon. All right? And probably by the time I get 20 feet, I'm going to be depleted. And I'm going to fall out. The hope is somebody's going to see me and like call 911 or something. I physically did that. It was muscular. Okay? Synaptic. At the area of the neuromuscular junction. Something can go wrong in the cleft. Not just, acetylcholine, okay? Yeah, all right. What else, though? Calcium, potassium, sodium, all right? It could be due to something at the synapse, physiological. Now, when we have something physiological take place, this means that there's usually some stiffness or some type of contraction. It could be the muscles, it could be the joints, it could be the ligaments, okay? But there is something that is physically making that muscle contract. So with physiological contraction, well, if the muscle is contracted, we're using the sodiums, we're using the potassiums, we're using the calciums, we're having the energy get used up, all right? This is the fatigue where this ATP, we can't get the muscle to contract or relax anymore. Whatever state it's in at that point, okay? That's it. It's not moving anymore. All right? Now, usually we look at the energy getting used up, the calcium getting used up, but the big thing about it is if I have that muscle contraction take place, that sarcomere, you guys remember the role of ATP, right? What is the role of ATP in the sarcomere? Okay, we have to make sure that that myosin head releases from the actin, right? And if ATP is not present, and we have a myosin head that got to bind and pull, and therefore create a contraction in a muscle, and then there's no ATP available, there's not going to be a relaxation. Does that make sense? So, this is what happens in rigor mortis. You know, sit up with the dead till they sit up with you. Y'all never heard that song? Sitting up with the dead till they sat up with me? Before, even now you have to do stuff to the dead. But at death, for a few hours, like 6 to 8, ATP is still available. So myosin heads are getting to move. And that means when that energy is gone, okay, because at death, calcium is going to leak out of the reticulum and it's going to go into the cell. And if calcium's present, the tropomyosin is going to shift and the active sites are available. And if the active sites are available and there's ATP present, for a while after death, we're going to have the contraction. We're going to have the cross bridges that form, okay? But eventually, that's going to all give out, okay? And when it all gives out, whatever point the muscle contraction stopped, that's the point that that person is in. And back in the old days, before they had funeral homes, they would lay out the dead person at home. Okay? And it was the custom to sit with the dead until they were put in the ground. All right? So there was a comedian that wrote a song about it. He was like sitting up with the dead till the dead sat up with me. You know? And it was talking about how he was sitting up with the dead person, and at some point during the night, the way the muscles left in contraction, the dead person literally did this number in the coffin. Okay? Because that's what happens. When you see them nice and laid out in a casket, chances are stuff's been broke. Bones have been broken. Eyelids have been clamped shut. Mouths have been clamped shut. Okay? That's what happens. All right? So, rigor mortis is that point where that muscle contraction there's nothing left. All the calcium has leaked out and it's made those active sites be available. Myosin heads have done, they're attaching, but that's it. At whatever point all of it gives out, wherever that myosin head is where it's going to be.